Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Bonjour et bienvenue et tous et toutes. My name is Paul Chiang. I'm the Member of Parliament for Markham, Unionville, and the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Housing and Diversity and Inclusion. And I will be your MC for today's announcement. Before I begin, I would like to acknowledge that we are joining you from the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. We have a special announcement today focusing on how our government is moving forward on the work to support Black-led, Black-serving charities and not-for-profit organizations across Canada. Here with us to share the details of our progress is the Honorable Ahmed Hussen, Minister of Housing and Diversity and Inclusion. Minister, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Paul, for that kind introduction. I want to also begin by acknowledging that we're gathered on the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe peoples. I'm also joined by Member of Parliament Arielle Kayabaga, MP for London West, for this important announcement. Ce matin, comme la plupart des matins, des millions de personnes à travers le pays se sont levées et avaient une seule idée en tête. Manucheka Celeste, the founder of Mais Utile in Montreal, has just done that over the last 10 years. She created Mais Utile to support primarily Black immigrant women and giving them the skills to improve their financial as well as their financial health as well as living conditions. And she understands this because she was once a Black immigrant woman to Canada, and she knows the difficulties of restarting your life in a new country. And she's dedicated her life to using this organization to empower more Black women. By helping these folks feel seen, heard, and be supported, Manucheka is ensuring that community members have the tools necessary to not just build a better future for themselves, but also for their families. Mais nous sommes tous d'accord que gérer un organisme à but non lucratif n'est pas facile. That's where funding from our government's Supporting Black Canadian Communities initiative came in. We heard the call from Black Canadian organizations that program funding was not enough. There was a need to close the gap in terms of capacity and infrastructure funding. And through the Supporting Black Canadian Communities initiative, we've seen groups like Mais Utile work with Group 3737, a nonprofit Government of Canada intermediary partner that showed her and her team how to diversify the source of funding for the great work that they do. The result is that Mais Utile grew their annual revenue from $20,000 to $650,000. And what has this done for them? It has enabled them to scrap membership fees, which has allowed more people to join this wonderful organization and empower even more women. It has enabled them to hire 6 full-time employees, which has enabled them to have a greater positive impact in the community. And it has enabled them, this extra funding, to create a cohesive team that's supporting the economic empowerment of even more Black Canadian women. Ils sont passés d'une situation où ils étaient au bord de la fermeture à un organisme qui continuera à faire du bon travail dans les années à venir. But the truth is, we know that there are probably hundreds, if not thousands, of Black-led and Black-serving organizations like Mais Utile who are working hard across the country, delivering really important services to all Canadians, including Black Canadians. And they are in the same situation as Mais Utile was a number of years ago. They're doing great work in the community, they're transforming lives, but they need a little bit of support. They need a little bit more guidance and maybe structural and capacity support to enable them to access more government funding or other sources of sustainable funding so that they can keep making even a bigger difference in the community. More capacity and more funding sources means more positive impact in the community. ce que m'amène à la raison pour laquelle nous sommes ici aujourd'hui. So that's why I'm really pleased to be here with my colleagues to announce the launch of the call for proposals for a Black-led and Black-serving organization to manage the up to $200 million Black-led Philanthropic Endowment Fund. In other words, if you're a national Black-led, Black-serving organization, you could step up, apply to this fund, and help us to lead this transformative fund. To find out more about whether your organization is eligible and what steps you need to take to access this opportunity to lead this fund, you need to submit your proposal and go to www.canada.ca. Applications can be submitted starting today until November 25th of this year. The Black-led Philanthropic Endowment Fund is part of our whole-of-government approach to tackle anti-Black racism and to contribute positively to the social and economic development of Black Canadians. This came directly from the call of the community to invest more in the capacity and infrastructure of Black Canadian organizations. Through this carefully managed fund, we will ensure that Black-led, Black-serving grassroots organizations, nonprofits, and charities can keep making the amazing contributions that they do every single day. We know that Black-led, Black-serving organizations have been doing so much for so long with so little resources. And this is yet another step in our commitment to continue to live up to Canada's signature of the United Nations International Decade for People of African Descent. You see programs like the Supporting Black Canadian Communities Initiative that has led to investments in capacity and infrastructure of so many nonprofits and charities across the country. A Black-led, Black-serving, and Black-managed fund that our government introduced. The Black Entrepreneurship Program, another recognition of our government's commitment to ensure that Black entrepreneurs have access to capital in a way that works for them. So by working together, we can create a more just and equitable society. We can ensure that no one is left behind. And this is, again, yet another piece of the commitment that we continue to make to Black Canadians. This is another piece of evidence that we are listening, that we are responding positively to the call for action to tackle anti-Black racism and to contribute positively to the economic development of our communities across the country. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Minister Hussen, for this announcement. As you mentioned earlier, the Black-led Philanthropic Endowment Fund is about taking a whole-of-government approach to tackling anti-Black racism and hate, while also supporting the economic empowerment of Black Canadian communities. This is an important program that we want to get right, and I'm proud to be part of a government that continues to step up to support communities from coast to coast to coast. I would like now to invite my colleague, Arielle Kayabaga, Member of Parliament for London West, to share a few words.
Thank you so much, MP Chiang, for the introduction. And I want to thank Minister Hussen for his advocacy and hard work for our communities. It's great to be here today to highlight this really important announcement. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. In Canada, diversity is a fact, but inclusion is a choice. So we're making this choice today. Notre gouvernement s'est engagé à soutenir les diverses communautés du Canada et à aider chacune de nos communautés à faire face à leur réalité unique. Our government is committed to supporting diverse communities in Canada and helping each one of our communities with their unique realities. Because we can only combat systemic racism and hate together, we can only advance social and economic equity through partnerships with community organizations at the grassroots level. We know the exact needs on the ground, and this is why that we have gathered here today to highlight the importance of the endowment fund. And we're also going to talk about the next step that we're taking to ensure that Black-led and Black-serving charities have access to the same resources and fund as other charities across Canada. Depuis 2018, notre gouvernement s'est engagé à un prêt d'un demi-milliard de dollars pour soutenir les communautés noires et lutter contre la discrimination systémique dans les domaines des affaires et de la justice, de la santé et du secteur communautaire sans but lucratif. Since 2018, our government has committed almost $500 million to support Black communities and address systemic discrimination in the areas of business, justice, health, and in nonprofit organizations. This is why Budget 2022 has invested an additional $50 million to support Black Canadians initiatives, $3.7 million over 4 years for Black-led engagement, designed an implementation of a mental health fund for Black federal public servants, and also a $1.5 million to support the activities of the Jean Augustin Chair in the Education Community and the Diaspora. We highlighted this back in 2022 when we announced our Budget 2022, and those of you who were there heard the importance and the response that the community had. These investments build on our previous investments of $300 million to support Black communities. Nous allons continuer ce travail jusqu'à ce que tous les Canadiens, y compris des Canadiens noirs, puissent participer équitablement et pleinement au sein des institutions économiques, sociales, physiques de notre pays. We will continue to do this work until all Canadians, including Black Canadians, can equitably, fully participate in the economic, social, and political institution of this country. Before I end, I would like to highlight and thank Minister Hussen for his important work and advocacy in continuing to advance our work. But I also would like to highlight the work that my colleagues and I are doing as your Black Caucus, which Minister Hussen is also part of. We are committed to continuing to be strong voices for Black Canadians across the country. Thank you.
Thank you, MP Guyabaga. That ends the speaking portion of this event. I would like to invite any questions from members of the media. As a reminder, you can ask questions of our speakers today through teleconference. Over to you, moderator.
We'll start with questions in the room. Nous allons commencer avec des questions dans la salle. David?
Hi, good morning, everyone. David Thurton from CBC News. Just help me understand what you were announcing today. Are you announcing that people can apply to access to $200 million, or are you announcing that you need an organization to propose a way to manage this philanthropic fund?
No, in terms of the design and how this fund will be managed, that is something that we have engaged in very extensive consultations in 2021 and this year with hundreds of Black Canadian charities and nonprofits. So we've had that feedback, and through their expertise and guidance, we're now in a position to launch the call for proposals to invite a national nonprofit or charity that is Black-led and Black-serving to apply to manage this fund, to manage this $200 million Black Endowment Fund. And so our wish is for a number of organizations to come forward and through a competitive process to select one or at least one or two Black-led, Black-serving national nonprofit charity organization or organizations to manage this $200 million Black Endowment Fund to the benefit of Black Canadian nonprofits and charities for as long as possible. That's the same thinking that we brought to the Supporting Black Canadian Communities initiative. We have 4 national intermediary partners who manage the funding on behalf and funnel that funding to small regional Black-led and Black-serving nonprofits and charities. It is truly Black-led. It is for Black Canadians by Black Canadians, and it's the same approach we're taking with the Black Endowment Fund, Philanthropic Endowment Fund of $200 million.
And if I'm understanding it correctly, do you expect like this pot of money to be self-sustaining?
Yes.
And when do you expect it to be up and running to the point where people can apply?
So the timelines are right now. We're launching the call for proposals between now and November 25th, and then we'll be in a position to announce the selected organization in the spring of next year. Once that organization is given that responsibility, we expect them to have a business plan and a partnership with an investment management firm, and to initiate the process of setting setting up the fund, the investments, and then obviously the expectation is that at the conclusion of the first year, you'll have enough capacity built to start to see proceeds from the investment of that initial $200 million, which is then expected to go in perpetuity to Black-led and Black-serving nonprofits and charities across the country. Yeah.
Next question in the room.
Bonjour, Kim Vermet de Radio-Canada. Je vais poser la question en français, mais...
Oui, je comprends.
Parfait. Alors, en fait, en 2020, vous aviez annoncé des aides là, pour les entrepreneurs noirs et tout. Puis ensuite, on a lu que, en fait, dans certains articles, on disait que finalement, ces aides-là, c'était pas tant concrétisé sur le terrain ou en tout cas, on sentait pas tellement les impacts. Qu'est-ce qui fait que cette fois-ci, ce sera différent ou que ça va vraiment aider les bonnes personnes au bon moment?
So the difference between Yeah, so I would respond in English. Sorry, je suis désolé. The issue is we're tackling different challenges. With the Black Entrepreneurship Fund, it is to tackle and close the gap in terms of lack of access to capital. We know that Black entrepreneurs, Black Canadian entrepreneurs lack adequate access to capital for their businesses. This is something that has been documented in a number of ways, and we have established the Black Entrepreneurship Program and now enhanced it with Budget 2022, as MP Kayabaga said, to address that gap. What we're talking about today is acknowledging that less than half of 1% of all the donations in Canada to nonprofits and charities go to Black Canadian nonprofits and charities. It's a very low number. But we also know that these nonprofits and charities do a lot of good work in the community. So how can we support how can we support a more sustainable funding source for these nonprofits and charities doing great work in the Black Canadian community? And also, how can we build more trust? Part of the challenge in which you're seeing very low number of donation dollars going to Black Canadian nonprofits and charities is because there's a lack of trust of government institutions and all agencies and institutions in general. So this will not only create that sustainable source of funding for important work on the ground, but it will also build up the capacity to access other sources of funding for the work of Black Canadian nonprofits and charities. And I believe it will also build capacity the same way that the Supporting Black Canadian Communities Initiative has done.
Et donc, on comprend que les besoins sont grands pour, oui, les organisations nationales, mais aussi même pour les entrepreneurs et tout ça. Il y aura beaucoup de travail à faire.
Yes, absolutely. For both, yes, there is. When it comes to entrepreneurs, they have disproportionately less access to capital through financial institutions, but also, as I said, with the nonprofits and charitable sector in Black Canadian communities, they're facing capacity challenges and challenges with respect to having access to more sustainable sources of funding to really fund the good work that they're doing. And the challenge has been that many of them have also not accessed adequately other sources of government funding. So by establishing this fund and making it a Black-led philanthropic fund, we believe that that organization will be required to not only have a national focus, they will also be required, for example, to include the diversity within Black Canadian communities, so Francophone Black Canadians and others, making sure that Western Canada is included, making sure that Eastern Canada is included, Black Canadians in the North, and so on. So this national organization that will benefit from being in charge of this philanthropic fund will be required to not only have a very strong and sound and credible investment plan for the money, but also they will be required to be fully representative of the diversity of Black Canadians in Canada, and they will be required to have a presence in every part and region of Canada so that no Black Canadian community organizations or regions will be left behind with this fund. It will be truly representative.
For any questions online, you may use the raise hand function now. Pour les questions en ligne, s'il vous plaît, utilisez la fonction lever la main. Do we have any other questions in the room?
Thank you very much.